Hello, I'm going to try to explain how I made this ink wash ghost. As I was drawing it, I didn't really know what I was going to do until I was about to do it, so I made a lot of foolish mistakes. I was also not patient, so I'll touch on those as we come across them. But here I am drawing my ghost, and I'm slow and hesitant because I'm not too sure what I want to do. So while I'm drawing, I'll say I used Speedball ink. I think just what do they call it? Super black Indian ink. And then I used a Utrecht watercolor brush. So in a second I'm going to pull out one of my favorite tools. It's a ruler with so many measurements on it. It makes everything easy and I use it probably every day. There it is. Look at all those measurements. So much more than your standard ruler. I use that to make the handle of the umbrella straight. Alright. So, and now in a second, I am going to use a kneaded eraser to blot out some of the pencil lines. Because I think at this point I know I want to do an ink wash, which is like a watercolor. I'll have a thin layer of ink on it, but if there are any pencils under this thin layer of ink, they are going to show through. So, you'll see me go through and lighten my dark pencil lines, get rid of anything unnecessary. Any minute. Any minute. And then what? Yeah, there I am. Getting rid of the lines. There's Hogarth in the background. I hope he doesn't keep working. So, and then I am going to pull out some masking fluid. Winsor Newton. I'm going to put on the ghost's eyes, and they are going to dry and leave it open. I got it on got the ink on my thumb already there. Because once you pull out the ink, it's everywhere. So, I'm putting it on its eyes so that when that dries, I can paint over it, and at the end of the painting, I can peel those eyes off, and there'll be white dots. I put a little bit too much on it, so I go through and I just remove a little bit with a tissue paper. So, and one of my mistakes here is that I put the ink in a little dish here. It looks cute, but it's going to dry out, and usually I have a little container with a screw on top to keep the ink nice and reusable, but those are all dirty right now, so I was impatient and used this dish, and like I said, I wasted a lot. It dried out. I thought I was going to do more inking that day, but I had to walk away from it and forgot about it, so I ruined that. So now, with the watercolor Utrecht brush, I'm going between the ink and the water to get a consistency I like, and I started at the ghost's head, because I wanted that to be the darkest with the ink, and I kind of pull it down with the water. And the water kind of pulls the ink down itself. And while that's drying, I fill in the umbrella. At this point, I just pulled off a bit of masking fluid that was still on my brush. That's another mistake. That was so foolish. I thought I wiped it all off my brush, but I guess I didn't. Thought I was going to have highlights, decided I didn't want them on the umbrella. The ghost is not 100% dry, but it's dry enough that it the ink and the water blend still, but I can control it a little more. So I add in another layer of dark. And then I add in the handle, and while I'm doing that, I smudge the umbrella, so I have to fix the umbrella. And there's a ghost's shadow. I think it's going to dry a bit, and then I'm going to add another layer to the ghost's head of ink. And it's just going between the ink and the water and filling it out, and like the water kind of pulls the ink itself, and you can kind of work with it. Here I am, just plain ink on the brush, and I'm adding just a little bit of outline to the ghost. In a second, I'm going to peel away its eyes, and they're white, but I wanted them a little more, white, I guess. So I add some gouache that I had been using that day, but the gouache was tainted and dirty, and I got blue in the eye, and then I got orange in the eye, and so I fooled around with it instead of getting like a nice, clean bit of gouache to start with. So that was another foolish thing I did. And then you don't see it, but later I spill ink on it. But I think the ghost is still good. So there you go, ink washed ghost. Hope you learned something.